Before I started this project, I was trying to find some vinyl online that I can cover the Ford logo with, but I specifically wanted matte black. I didn't want a gloss vinyl adhesive to go on there, and so I bought this that's on here, and it's this type S adhesive wrap. It's a 1 foot by 3 foot piece of vinyl adhesive, matte black. I bought it at a auto parts store because I could not get anything online to have shipped because everything was out of stock. Everywhere I went, it was out of stock. So I ended up buying this adhesive, and it looks okay from a distance, but once you get up close, you can tell it's not very good. So one, the Ford badge or logo, whichever you want to call it, is convex, but unlike my other truck, this is a 3-piece Ford logo. My other truck had a stamped Ford badge. So this is 3 pieces. This didn't come out too great because of the fact that it's convex, and then also because the Ford portion is separate, and then also the piece in here is separate. So this portion is recessed, and then this portion sticks out. And what's happening is the vinyl will not stick to this inner portion, and then it's also constantly not really sticking to the Ford portion of the logo. Package for this specific vinyl says is to pull it taut, but the problem is once you start pulling it, it leaves gaps everywhere. So this inlaid portion around here, it'll stick initially, but it keeps coming right back up. And then if the logo is facing towards the sun and the sun hits it, this will start bubbling up. So far it hasn't been that great. I did apply some heat initially and it laid in there pretty good, but it doesn't stay. So last 3 days I've come out here and I've had to press it back into place, and then it just comes back up. Something else is this vinyl is not very flexible. First take the backing off, it is kind of stiff, but when you apply heat to it, as I did, I think the heat actually makes it more stiff, and it's harder to work with, because when I trimmed the pieces off the edges, I noticed that it was a lot more rigid than what it originally was. I did this initially because I was looking for a semi-permanent way to cover the Ford badge, but because I don't like the way that it came out, I'm going to remove this, remove the badge again, and I'm just going to paint it. I'm using this Scotch 3M Sharp Lines multi-surface tape. I've already cleaned the Ford portion, and I put 2 strips of tape, and then I'm going to go around and make sure that all the way around everything is nice and tight, and then I'm going to trim it with an X-Acto knife, because what I want to do this time is not paint the Ford portion at all, but paint the rest of it black. So I'm going to cover this and then paint the rest of it black. I'm not sure how well it can be seen, but what I did is I took this squeegee and went around all the edges to make sure that I'm going to have good adhesion to the Ford letters, and then I'm going to take an X-Acto and go around and trim it. Hopefully I get some nice clean lines and don't put any scratches into the logo itself. I finished going around all the letters with the X-Acto knife, so I'm about to find out how well I did. Several things I did is put the tip of the X-Acto knife in the little grooves, and rather than pressing it in, find the groove and then kind of float the tip of the blade along, and it's best to go at a almost a dragging angle versus straight up and down. And then once I started cutting, I attempted to keep the cut going as long as possible without lifting up on the knife, because I know every time you lift the knife you run the risk of a little tab hanging on to the other tape, and you end up pulling it up or messing it up. That's what it looks like. Now let's see how good of a job I did. I'm going to be careful not to pull this up too fast, just in case there's any little tails that decide they want to hang out. It's like I may have one right there because it wanted to pull up. And it still wants to pull up. It's always right where the letters come to a corner where they want to hold on. Alright, so there it is. I can see some spots, and I have to, nope, I forgot a spot. Probably be a good idea to have some tweezers handy. Alright, there it is. I just gotta go around and touch up some little feathers that are sticking off some of the letters where it didn't get a good cut. But I don't see any of the chrome, so that's a good thing. Got a little bit ahead of myself and forgot to record, but I went back around the edges with the X-Acto knife, and by running the X-Acto knife around everything, it actually helped the tape stick around the edges better. And now what I've done is sprayed a flat black on to the logo, and I'm going to let it dry for a little while and then put on another coat, and then I'll finish it off with a clear coat, and I'll probably put 2 to 3 coats of clear coat on it. Alright, there it is, the final product. It's got 3 coats of high temp matte black and 3 coats of clear coat on it. It's got a pretty smooth texture all the way around, and the lines around the chrome portion of Ford are pretty clean as well. One thing I did do when I removed the tape from the Ford letters is I took the X-Acto knife and ran it around all the edges, because my concern was that if I didn't, when I peeled the tape off, it would probably peel the clear coat and or the paint with it, and worked out pretty good. I didn't have anything other than this little tiny spot right in here. It did peel up some of the clear coat, and I think it's because I did not use the X-Acto knife in that spot. So even though it peeled some of the clear coat off, I was able to spray some clear coat into a cap and then use a very small paintbrush and put a couple coats in there, so it's all good. I definitely like this a whole lot better than the plain matte black, because when it was plain, it just kind of looked like a blank plate sitting on the tailgate, and it just really looked too plain. So I'm pretty happy with this. It breaks up the blankness of the plate, having the Ford stick out. I was trying to get away from chrome altogether. I wanted the truck to be completely black. Of course, there's some things that you just can't change on the truck,